Hi friends, it's Tuesday, February 8th. We just finished our Board of Supervisors meeting. We started a little after 9 and ended at 2:20, and we had a lot of good discussion that I'll brief you on. I want to thank our friend Dr. Agustin Romero. He's the new director of the Pascuayaqui Education Department, and I want to thank him so much for reading the land acknowledgement. We started the meeting with a presentation from military and general aviation, talking about shared airspace and safety concerns. And I think that with all of the news that's happened as of late and so many airplane involved accidents, collisions, that I think it was a timely conversation. We also learned that there were recently, in the last 72 hours, 400 cuts to FAA employees, and 4 of those are based out of Phoenix, which definitely impacts our region. And I think that that's important to talk about and be concerned about and be aware of. We recognized Michael Sterner. He's a library tech assistant and 30 years of service in the library, and he's retiring. And his main branch was Himmel Library, though he floated to a lot of other branches early on in his career. Thank you, Michael, for all of your service. And the estimate was like 1 million people that you touched in your 30 years of service at the library. We proclaimed Craig Ivany Day, and this is Craig has been instrumental in leading the Arizona Sonoran Desert Museum for 40 years. Thank you so much for your leadership and service. And we had about, it looked like 35 people or more come to celebrate you, Craig. So thank you for all of your service. Your impact is definitely going to be missed here in Pima County, but your legacy will continue to be there. Thank you so much. And then we had Black History Month. The proclamation for this month, February in Pima County, is Black History Month. I want to thank Dr. Cherry Meeks and Bob and Beverly Elliott from the African American Southern Arizona Museum for coming down and accepting the proclamation. It's always nice to see you all. We had an update on federal action affecting county funding. This is something that I requested that we discuss, and then the board approved 5-0 to continue to have an update at every board meeting, which I think is really important because we're seeing things changing day to day. And so for us to be able to have a conversation about what is happening and not happening is really important. Since January 20th, there have been 60 executive orders issued, 75 lawsuits thus far, specifically focused on the pausing of federal funds, which happened on January 28th. That temporary pause was overruled by the courts, but it's sort of a hit and miss whether any of the municipalities, cities, counties, states have received the funding. And thus far, the portal is open for us to put in the expenses, but we're not sure if we're going to get reimbursed yet, even though the courts have sort of made their position very clear. So 7 of those executive orders tie specifically to funding in Pima County. And Pima County's impact is going to be significant if any of those funds sort of disappear. 93% of our current grants are federal funds. So I think that that's important to discuss. And so what we're going to do is we're going to have, the next time we have a presentation, they're going to talk about the status of the grants. Are we at the beginning? Are we at the middle? Are we at the end? All of that I think is going to come into play. And I anticipate, well, I don't want to kind of sound the alarm, but I think that if there isn't a contract executed, that we shouldn't count on receiving those funds. There is also the tariffs. That impact is going to hit our capital improvement jobs, and the projections will continue to increase. And respectfully, even if those tariffs don't go through, the delay in coming across the border with either Canada or Mexico is going to impact us here locally. We had a fairly lengthy discussion with fire district funding needs. I want to thank Southern Arizona firefighters, President Ryan Ward, Fire Chiefs Bradley, Wonder, and Delph all representing different fire districts, for coming and taking their time to really talk to us about what the needs are, why the fire districts are in the position that they're in. And the quote that we heard from Chief Bradley is, "We are barely scraping by." And so he fears that we're going to continue to have, fires that range from 3 acres to 380 acres. We've had them in the last 5 years. We could have them now. We're very dry because of climate change and the lack of rains. We're fairly dry right now, so there is always that concern. And so what we're trying to do is anticipate what we at the county can do, and this will be an ongoing discussion. One of the things they talked about is standards of response coverage, and that if you look at the presentation that will be attached to this item on the agenda, we're seeing in some areas in Pima County a response time from anywhere from 18 minutes to 25 minutes. While that is rare, essentially everything is destroyed is what they were explaining to us. So I think that that's important, and that some of the other concerns are, talking about mutual aid, that they do provide mutual aid for the Tohono O'odham Nation, Pascua Yaqui, City of South Tucson, all part of Pima County. But this presentation was an hour and a half, and I think it's because the needs are very great, and respectfully not sure how Pima County can partner in providing support. And so I think that it's important for us to really work through that, because it is a safety concern for all of us in Pima County. And it's not just fire. Remember, like, ambulatory services also come out of those fire departments. We had an update on Pima County climate action. This is where we continue to have discussions on what the impacts are, positive and negative, to how we're continuing to work through that plan. I think that's really important. And we had a discussion about our finances, and one of the things that we saw is that the state mandated cost shifts have increased nearly 31 million since 2022. So we're at about 152 million total since the beginning of our first term, and the impact. So if you look at the cumulative impacts of these cost shifts, it's pretty significant and staggering. And I think that that's why we're going to see that projected for next fiscal year, we're at a $12.6 million deficit. I think a lot of that has to do with the flat tax that is happening at the state, that those revenues cannot come down to Pima County in the form of the state picking up some of those costs that they're now shifting back to Pima County. And so I think that's important for us to continue to have a conversation about, and that is every board meeting will have that item. Our next meeting is going to be March 4th. We're going to have some discussions there about some of the requests from different elected offices for supplemental requests. But considering the $12.6 million deficit, I'm very unlikely to support any additional supplemental requests from any department unless it's been vetted through the county attorney and approved that way. I also want to note that there is a library survey out basically asking about how you use the library and what do our libraries of the future look like. You go to library.pima.gov and there is a survey there. And also our students are going to be out of school on Thursday and Friday for rodeo break. And so remember that we're, I think, the only city in the nation that gets rodeo break. So for those of us who have children that are going to be able to take an opportunity to spend a little more time together during the week, and also, maybe take part in the rodeo parade and some of the events that are coming up. Thank you so much for keeping up with Pima County politics. Stay safe, my friends.